live on Facebook. We're live on Facebook. Be sure to tune in on Facebook, YouTube. We're there. We're everywhere. So you can tune in. Kevin Phares joining me here to talk a little bit about violence on campus and the way professors act and conduct themselves, because this whole second hour of Conservative Cat, I've been talking with Augustine, who was from Northwest University, and they had an issue with people withholding funds or threatening to withhold funds, and they made big statements, said that they were bigoted for having this poster that has the gay pride flag and, the crossbones that suggest that the gay pride is poison. And it's a poster that says the dangers of identity politics and intersectionality. This intersectionality, I got it a little bit while I was in school. You're still in school, Kev Phares, who you can catch on Speechless Cities 92.9 Sundays from 3 to 5. Do you know what intersectionality is?
Yeah, so you'll have a lot of different people, a lot of lefties try to tell you it's not this, but essentially at its most basic form, what intersectionality is, it was designed by a sociologist, Kimberly Crenshaw, back in the later 1900s. And what she basically described it as is all of our identities intersect, which is not totally wrong in the idea of I personally am a white, Irish, straight Catholic male, right? So all of those identities come together to create who I am. Like, it's not, you can't separate it, and I can't just be a white male. I can't just be a Catholic male. Like, I am all of those things together. But where it gets taken a step way too far, because that's just intersect. When it becomes intersectionality, it's this idea that, well, all of your identities intersect, and some people, because their identities, when you do segment them individually, they've been oppressed on multiple levels historically. The things that they say and the ideas they have and the opinions they share have a different weight and a different value to them based on how much you're oppressed. So me being a straight white Catholic male, I am the biggest oppressor. So my opinions and what I have to say means nothing to people that believe in intersectionality. However, if you're a black, trans, lesbian, Muslim woman, then you are you win the woke Olympics, you win the oppression Olympics, and your everything you say, it's like that Family Guy clip that we always play. It's, oh, you're transgender, do whatever you want all the time.
You're transgender, just do whatever you want. Do whatever you want.
All the time. Yeah. And that's essentially what it is it's like, okay, if you ring the bell of being so oppressed in society through intersectionality, through all your intersecting identities, then you are basically blameless on everything you do because you've been so oppressed in your life that how are you the one to blame for it? Everybody else is to blame for all your issues.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I wanted to bring up here, because I always noticed in my classroom when I was in school, they always talked about it, but it was never actually put into action, right? So the black gay kids in college were never treated any different. So I from what I could see, I don't know.
Well, there's a few things. So first off, maybe not in your classes, not in my classes. I've done a very good job because I am a very outspoken conservative. I will not write a liberal essay just to appease it, but that's not the kind of person I am. But I have heard friends from other classes say that they've had professors that will have classes where it's like, okay, if you're a white male, I'm going to call on you last. And it's supposed to be like a thought exercise in a sociology class to prove to white men what oppression is and stuff like that. It's absolute crap. But even
that happens? Wow.
Yep, there are classes in which that
Well,
actually
I have had my grade affected. There was a time, I've shared it before here, Joseph Zumpetti is a professor, a communications professor, and I have never experienced anything quite like this, where I wrote it wasn't conservative leaning. I wasn't like a fangirl of Donald Trump in it at all. I was just explaining his campaign and his communication tactics. And I didn't even think that it was very conservative. I thought maybe it was a little bit more left-leaning in that I was kind of being critical of them, but also thought that at the end of it, my conclusion was that he had effective campaign speech.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the leftists of left can't deny that he has millions of people showing up to hear him speak all of the time, right? I mean, it's just... Stop the Steal, right? The Stop the Steal rally, millions of people came out to hear him speak. So he's effective. So Zampetti gave me a failing grade on this paper, which led to me not having a good grade in the overall class because this was a big paper.
Yeah.
And which, I mean, it is what it is. I passed. That's how good my grade was in the class before I wrote the paper.
Yeah.
I was getting an A, then I failed the paper, and then I wound up getting like a C, barely passing. Right? C's get degrees though. So,
well, yeah. But one thing I want to bring it back to though, when you say like that you might not have seen it as much on your college campus. Actually, I think you did, Kat. But I think that the left is really good at hiding it, and they don't flat out call it intersectionality anymore. The biggest thing that they call it, and I know you talk about it on your shows as well, is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that is a part of intersectionality. I mean, so recently, ISU, Illinois State University, dumped millions of dollars, I think it's millions, if not millions, and hundreds of thousands of dollars into their recently remodeled and made multicultural center, right? And so within their multicultural center, they have a pride organization. They have a Latinx organization. They have your anti-black ISU, so like your black organization at ISU. You have all these different organizations with all their different identities in which they're segregated and split up based on just their identities. And that, in essence, is intersectionality, because where is the multi-million-dollar renovation for the Irish Catholic students?
Yeah.
Of ISU.
Yeah.
We have a Newman Center, but that's not university sponsored. That's its own separate entity that is apart from the university.
So do you think you would be able to host some sort of like Catholic group within the multicultural center, or
if it was within one of the other, I think if it was within, like maybe with the Hispanic students, maybe I could, if because I think that
but definitely not Irish Catholic. Like,
no,
say
I don't
you
think.
wanted
I
it
don't
in
think
a-
I could. I don't think. I don't. Even if I could, I don't think it'd be worth it. I think it'd be a better. It'd be a better use of my time to do it through like the Newman Center or local Catholic church, because that would be way better received. We'd get better attendance. People. It would be hostile. To do it in the multicultural center. And so that's what I mean is like if it was genuinely a multicultural center by the definition of multicultural, then every culture should be accepted there, right? They should have St. Patrick's Day events celebrating Irish culture. They should have there's a Polish holiday, I forgot what it's called, but where you can make Pulaski Day, that's it, where you can make the Polish food there. But no, a multicultural center is entirely about race and who you want to sleep with. So it's not. That's a heavy example of intersectionality, and it's bigger than just like the fact that I don't really need a place for Irish Catholics. Like that's not what I'm begging for here. What I'm saying though is that you have student money. Like this is student money, or money at least, even if it's given through a grant or through a donor or something. It is money that is given to the school and is put towards people based on the color of their skin or their sexuality. To me, that's discrimination. And it is in the name of intersectionality and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So yes, you might not have necessarily seen in your classroom overt instances of somebody saying, "White men, put your hands down because you're oppressors." You might not have seen that, but but it happens, and it happens in the plain view of everyone. It's just under different names.
Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Now, we're talking with Kev Phares from Speechless, Cities 92.9, and we're talking about college campuses and how woke they are, and what's it like to be a college student on a college campus. Now, I think that you're onto something here, Kevin, when you were talking about how it is, and it might not be in overt ways. So there's a cross that I wear, and there were times where people actually questioned me on the cross.
I get that too.
Do you?
I wear mine all the time.
Yeah. I had somebody come up and they say, "Oh, aren't you? Shouldn't you not be wearing that because I was a broadcast student? Shouldn't you not be wearing that because you're on TV?" Right? There's this thing. It's called TV 10. Yep. They do great work there. It's a really great program. But I've had students come up to me and say, "Why are you wearing that?" Which was really kind of awkward. I've never had anybody like even bat an eye at the cross I'm wearing that I wear around my neck, which was just bizarre to me. But also in my classes, so I was a journalism student, as woke can be, right? There was an instance where I was in a classroom, somebody wrote "a cab," all cops are, and They didn't get any kind of repercussions for it. The people, they didn't even bother to try to find out who did that. It was vandalism. It was on one of our classroom whiteboards, right? And they just didn't even bother to try to find the students. I mean, that's offensive, right? I have a long line of cops in my family. I thought it was really offensive.
Yep.
I was like, that's terrible to say that. And nobody even cared. I was like, oh, whatever. But I'm sure if I wrote Trump 2020 on there, they would have been like, losing their minds. I was so scared to even like tell people. So I had to miss class a couple of times for a Trump rally. I can say that now. What are you guys going to do?
Yeah.
But I missed class for a Trump rally a couple of times, actually. And I didn't post any kind of pictures or anything like that. Well, one, I was ditching school. But two, I didn't want any of my so-called friends to come out and say, oh, look, she's a bigot. Yeah. Like she's going to Trump rallies and things like that. So I kept it very DL and I would go with my family. But there was a time where I was reading the AP style book, which is something that journalism students, and when I say that, people are like, oh, yeah, the AP style book. They told me in one of my classes that this was for sure your Bible. Like they said that this is your Bible and you have to live and die by the AP style book. And this is how you construct journal or articles. So if you read articles, they're all the same.
Yeah.
So grammatically, they use the same type of language. And we all wonder why. It's because there is a book and it's called the AP Style Guide. And it comes out, there's a new version every single year. And for an example, just one of the things in the AP Style book, you have to capitalize the word black. And you would actually, I would get knocked down points when I would type up articles, right? That was mainly what I did. I would get points knocked off if I didn't capitalize black. And in the AP Style book, it says the reasoning for it is because black people have always been oppressed. And this is a sense of empowerment over white people when you capitalize the word black. When referring to black people.
We should ask Ty Smith if he feels so much
empowered
by people capitalizing
Ty
the
Smith,
word black.
comma, who is black.
Yeah.
I will never forget that. The Washington Post. They referred to Ty Smith in the Washington Post article, the hippies that they did on this radio station, and I will never forget it. I screenshot it, I circle it, and I go Ty Smith, comma, who is black.
Yeah.
It's just like God.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll capitalize the word black. And then you have to lowercase the word white. Another instance, third world country is not acceptable.
I've been told that one, yeah. What's the word? You're supposed to use something instead of that, like
developing nations.
Nation. That's it, yeah.
Which is really funny because they're not developing. So this is why language, everybody's like, oh, they're just changing language all of the time. You're right. They change it every single year.
They change it more than you know. That's why, I mean, so a lot of people don't even know, but the reason why my show is called Speechless, like the biggest reason is because when we were starting that show all the way back when, you asked me to come up with a name, and the most recent book I had read was Speechless, Controlling Hearts, Controlling Minds by Michael Knowles, and it is arguably the most influential book on my life. It changed the way I look at journalism, changed the way I read everything, textbooks, fiction, nonfiction. If you read that book, Speechless by Michael Knowles, you will see every single way in the last several decades that the left has perverted language to fit their narrative.
Yeah, they've perverted it, and they're all in on it. So it is like a group. It's a board. I'd imagine the people who write this textbook, who write the guide, they are a board of people at the top through the Associated Press, and they sit down and they figure out ways to change our language, and it's all built off of that. They all write the same way. And it's really incredible because a lot of people who are conservative leaning, right, conservative leaning press, a lot of them don't have degrees in journalism, which is why I think it's taking a little bit harder, a little bit longer for conservative media to take off. Obviously, we know there is more people like you and I, because at the root of it, I honestly think it's faith, right, rooted in Judeo-Christian values. but also just being an American,
Mm-hmm.
there's just a natural tendency to want to be conservative, to be left alone. It's just the way America
Absolutely.
goes.
Yeah.
It's where we were found. It's
Yeah.
the principles we were founded with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more of us, right? And you would think that conservative media would be taken off, but it's not, relatively, right? I think it is booming, but it's booming in a different space, and it's
well, it's because it's hit the parallel economy at this point. Like, that's the thing, is that, yeah, it's not necessarily taking off with all of your average people, but that's because the parallel economy in and of itself is so new. Like, the whole idea of having, like, if you are on one side of the political spectrum, you shop at these places, and if you are on the other side, you shop at these places. That's not how our country or the world has ever really been.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, the reason is because conservative media might not be getting into all the spaces that we're trying to yet, simply because
the money.
Well, it's the money, but it's also just because the entire idea of having two separate medias, like where you have everybody used to be on the same page to an extent. Like for most of this country's history, it was both parties got along to an extent that we wanted to lower taxes, and for the most part, or that we wanted to spend money on different areas within, that was the biggest disagreement when it came to Congress, is where are we going to put our money. Nowadays, it's a common argument as to whether or not a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man in our Congress, and within our government. And so when your arguments devolve into that, we have created a whole new culture sphere, to where conservatives have needed to exit themselves from the dominant culture and the dominant media. And so you're right. It seems like it might be taking a while, but relatively, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the idea of conservative media at best is a little over 20 years old, with Fox News starting in 1996. And that's at best. But then you take in the idea of podcasting and how new all that stuff is within the last decade. That's Ben Shapiro.
They
and the
are
Daily
really,
Wire.
yeah, it's
and
really cool.
And so, yeah, maybe it seems like it's taking a while, but relatively, it's actually blown up pretty quick. And there's only room to grow. So
there's only room to grow. Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We're talking with Kev Phares. This is Conservative Cat. Be sure to like and follow all of our pages: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. We're on Rumble. Be sure to go follow us on Rumble. It's a fun channel. Mm-hmm. I really like the people on there. I got a couple of comments on some videos, and I was like, I like the Rumble people. Screw you, YouTube. Screw you, as Dan Bongino puts it. We're talking with Kev Phares, Cities 92.9, and you were telling me a little bit about your time at ISU and about a professor who assaulted you, actually. And, Kevin, I know you're going to be mad at me when I say this. Don't be mad. Okay. But it feels like you're just, I don't know, and I think it's a Christian thing, where you just kind of brush it off and you just keep going. Me, I don't know if I would be that willing to brush it off and keep going. So yes, you made an ISU report, but if you really wanted to, you could have fought that hard.
No, and I regret that. No, I regret that, and that's something that I think about. But I think about where I was at the time, and I'm happy I didn't at that time. I was a freshman. I was a first semester freshman at ISU. Mm-hmm. I had never been. This was my first time really in college. I was trying to start a club. I thought that in and of itself was kind of crazy to do as a freshman. Going and getting into what was going to become a national media lawsuit when I had never had a radio show before. My voice was still so small at that point that I could not imagine having gone through having my public life aired as much as it could have been. Or my private life aired as much as it could have been in the public, if I had taken it into a lawsuit and everything. I'm sure the university thanks God every day, or whatever, thanks their spaghetti monster, whoever they pray to. They thank that I didn't sue, because I definitely could have, and I could have won. And I regret to an extent that I didn't, but at the place, if it had happened to me today.
But it did.
Huh?
It did, kind of. So this was another instance where you were met with a police officer escorting you out of a public university that you attend. I'm not trying to rip on you.
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. That's just not the same to me. That definitely is something that needs to be looked into.
Explain it for our listeners.
Yeah, so I was trying to ask John Danenberger, and now Bloomington City Council member, at the time Bloomington City Council candidate.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to ask him about a story we ran here about how he lied to the government in the military about where he was. He also lied to a foreign court about where he was going to be. And I just wanted to ask him why he was in Spain when he said he was going to be in all these other places. And instead, and it was at a public event. There was nowhere that to be found about press credentials or anything like that. It was open to the public, invited to the public, and also very open to students. It was on Illinois State's campus. And when I went to try to talk to him, people got in front of me. They tried to tell me that I wasn't allowed to be there without a press pass. I wasn't allowed to ask him questions without a press pass. They brought over ISUPD, and when ISUPD asked me to leave, I obliged. And the thing is, the reason why I think that one's different is because, one, I went in just like, I was so surprised. I was like, I was trying to ask this dude a question. Like, I wasn't trying to be hostile or anything like that. I was trying to let him tell his side of the story. That's the way that I saw it. But along with that, I wasn't physically assaulted. Yes, my rights were definitely, arguably infringed upon.
Mhm.
And we tried to do everything we could. I mean, I know that Diane Benjamin helped me with, and some of the nearby watchdogs. They FOIA'd for body cam footage and for info on it.
We did.
And
They said that there wasn't any.
and there's nothing about it, which is also super sketchy, but that would make the case like a billion times harder to argue in a court.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, but it's different from my instance of being assaulted by a professor. This one was, I was going in there. It's a public event. I was going in there as a kind of a member of the press. When I was doing the stuff for Turning Point, I was a private club attempting to start a club through the university. A freshman, young. I was not in any way looking for because I mean like to an extent when I'm out at these events as press, I don't want to say you're looking for confrontation because that's not what we're doing. We're not looking for confrontation.
But you're adversarial.
But to an extent we're not. I mean, my questions were not going to be, John, how are you going to be the best guy on Bloomington City Council? No, it wasn't going to be like that. I wasn't going to be. I was about to say something I'm not allowed to say on I wasn't going to be doing stuff to him that would make him happy.
Yeah.
And so, but when I was just trying to start a club my freshman year. And a professor tells me to go to hell when I did not invite conversation with him. He invited conversation with me.
By going up to you as you were
exactly.
I
was adjusting a poster.
A poster.
And so that's the way I see it is like, yes, I get what you're saying, Kat, but they were two incredibly different situations. I regret to an extent not going after the professor more legally. But at the time it didn't make sense for me. I was so scared. I was scared enough of having to go back and face him for an apology at that time because I was young. I was 18. Like,
oh no, I wouldn't have done it at 18 years old. I wouldn't have done it at 22, 24. Now, if I'm ever in that kind of situation, if anybody were to dare lay hands on me, you're getting these little paws, these mitts.
See, I never.
You get my mitts.
That's a big thing. Is like, and that's where I am. That's where I think like what you said earlier that the faith plays into it. I'm a big like turn the other cheek person in the moment. I mean, like you saw the video of me out with the protesters, right? And like Sonny Garcia and all that stuff. He got really up in my face, and I had people commenting to me like, "Oh man, I would have clocked that guy in the face," or like if they had done anything, like I would have punched him. That's just not who I am. I'm very big on in the moment, turn the other cheek. Look, I will go after you in the media as much as I possibly want. I will blow. I will show your behavior to everyone willing to watch and listen. Because I think that's a bigger punch than my fist could ever do.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I see it is like in the moment.
This is why, I mean, I love going out to these events and everything. I feel very attacked with glares and things like that whenever I go out and I cover things in the press. And I've really rolled back on that because of some threatening things that have been said to me. And I really try not to go out and cover events anymore.
Yeah.
And I've made that decision personally. I try not to do it. We've hired on Kevin Woodard, who goes out to the events, and so I don't have to.
And anything hostile, I'll always go to. Like I said, like
Yeah.
Anybody, if you're out there and you really want to get
Because
a punch
I
on
don't
me,
have that personality.
if anybody wants to punch me, I mean, come to an event. I'm not saying I want you to. This is not an invitation, but what will happen is I will sue you, and I will blow it up in the media. But if you want to go to these events and you can see me, and if you want to start a physical altercation, you can start it. You can end it if you want to, but it will make national headlines, and we will make sure of it because that's just the way that you have to do it. I mean, so here's the thing: is that if a lefty throws a punch at me, they will be blown up in their circles as a hero, right? If I throw a punch back, I will be the worst thing in the world, not only to the lefties,
Daniel
but to
Perry.
everybody else. I will
Daniel Penny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the way I see it is
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, is you can punch me, you can beat me down. The way here's the best analogy I can come up with, and I'll do it. Here's a visual for everybody who's watching at home. Is so I have a $10 bill right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
A $10 bill. You can crumple it up, you can throw it on the ground, you can stomp on it, you can hit it, whatever. But you still undo it. You brush it off a little bit, undo the wrinkles, and it's still a $10 bill. It's still got its value.
Yeah.
That's how I am. You can punch me, you can beat me to the ground, you can hit me, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, I'll stand back up, I'll brush off my shirt, and I'll still be a $10 bill.
I'll still be a $10 bill. I love it. Hey, we got to cut to break. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I so do appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye. Love you.